people currently working in data privacy or trying to get into it, what will the changes coming in the next few years mean for their skill sets? Do you think that there are any new skills or learning areas that you recommend that people who already do work in this space need to get into so they don't get left behind?
I think the big, like, obvious one is AI. So, privacy is one of the biggest question marks and biggest concerns surrounding LLMs and other forms of generative AI right now. And it's what's stopping a lot of larger investment in them from, companies. Like, lots of companies are interested in learning, but we're not seeing a ton of like moving beyond sort of demoware, proof of concept, or interest because of some of the challenges around, privacy and security. And there's also a lot of, I think, misleading information out there and people creating products, privacy or governance for AI, that don't really solve the fundamental issues. So I think this is something that privacy professionals, whether you're entering that space today or you're already operating in that space, then you need to kind of get up to speed with, because a big part of your job, if you're a privacy engineer, a lot of times is like bridging the gap between the engineering organization and maybe like legal and compliance. So you need to be able to speak to the engineer in the language that they understand and the way they like to talk about things, and then be able to translate that essentially to legal and compliance in a way that they can understand it, so that essentially everyone can do their job in a way that's going to work for everybody. And if AI is an investment, or LLMs are as an investment that your company is making, then you need to be able to speak that kind of language and have enough knowledge about it. What are the actual problems that exist there, and how does the technology work? Why is this different than some of the problems that we've seen in the past with like a database and so forth?
Yeah. So many security roles and roles in privacy and related things seem to involve being intermediaries between different parts of the company and being able to understand both sides of the wall and being able to sort of explain over it to make sure everyone's sort of on board, which I don't think was necessarily the case 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for listeners who are choosing or maybe re-choosing their careers after another role and are considering areas like data collection, data privacy, privacy regulation, data security, and others, what are some must-have sort of skills? You sort of learned along the way and so forth. Like, what would you recommend now that someone getting into this space would do in terms of experiences, in terms of certs, and in terms of learning, either at home or in a professional standpoint? Like, what are the things that are absolute must-haves for people working in this area?
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the role that you want to move into. Like, so let's say that you're, I don't know, a salesperson, or you're in product marketing or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm interested in like security, or I'm interested in privacy. I want to take my role but do it in that space. Then that's different than I'm an engineer and I want to pivot into being like a privacy engineer. So in terms of if you're in an existing role and you kind of want to move into the area of security and privacy, I think a big part of it there is there's like educating yourself at least broadly about like the tools and technologies in the space. What are the problems? What are the challenges that different companies face? How would people solve this today? What does future look like, and so forth? And there's tons and tons of resources available to do those kinds of things today, like podcasts and YouTube and conferences and lots of articles and so forth. So a lot of it's kind of just like trying to get up to speed so that you have some sense of, what's actually happening. How do I like talk about, potentially the product or space that I'm interested in an authentic way? And that is important regardless of the role that you're in. If you're in engineering and you kind of want to move into privacy engineering, I think that's great, because it is a very like fast growing space. Yeah. And they're always looking for people who have technical backgrounds that can kind of move into privacy engineering. And I think that's something that's changing. If you looked even probably 5 years ago on LinkedIn and did a search for privacy engineering jobs, probably the first like 50 pages is like Google, Meta, and like Microsoft or something like that. Right, and now there's a lot more diversity in terms of the companies that are hiring for that role. Right. And we already talked about sort of a lot of your job is sort of being that translator or storyteller between two areas. And I also think that, this is an exciting time to get into the space because of a lot of the things that we're talking about. Like, there is a growing momentum to make this, a priority, day one priority for companies. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of really exciting things that are happening in the world of privacy enhancing technologies, like things like secure enclaves and homomorphic encryption and secure
Yeah.
multi-party computation. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in the space. It doesn't necessarily just have to be like hardcore technical.
Yes.
There's lots of opportunities for people who can kind of bridge the gap between the super technical and the not so technical.
Have you seen Work Bites, the new security awareness training series from InfoSec? Our team produced this series with 3 E's in mind, making security awareness training entertaining, engaging, and educational. Just go to infosecinstitute.com/free to learn more about this hilarious office comedy. And hey, let us know what you think about it.